Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is actually the third installment of our Building Bridges to the Community lecture, which we have now turned virtual. So we're so thrilled that you joined us tonight. I know it's the start of a busy week for probably a lot of people, getting ready for Thanksgiving. So we really appreciate you sharing your evening with us. And for those of you that do not know me, my name is Rachel Nahrwold. I am a nurse practitioner with the Preventive Cardiology team working with Dr. Gianos. And we are so thrilled tonight to have Sharon Zarabi with us. She's going to be speaking about a topic that I think is so timely. She's going to be discussing the anti-diet and approaches to healthy eating. This is especially timely as we get into the holiday season. And I think in general, food is such a hot button issue, to be honest. First of all, food is cultural, it's social, it's very important, it's celebratory, it's comfort. So there's all these beautiful things around it, but on the flip side, it can also cause a lot of anxiety for people. I think there's a lot of nervousness that can come into it, where especially people that have heart disease, any other chronic conditions, where they are just very concerned that they're going to do one wrong thing and it's going to completely derail all their good work. And I think that it's very important that we help people to feel empowered and educated, and just giving them all the knowledge that they can to make sure that they're making these choices that can be sustained over their lifetime, ideally, so that not only are we giving you as many years as we can, but great quality of life, which is what we really, really want for our patients. So if you guys have not been on our virtual calls before, the way it's going to work is Sharon's going to be talking, but at any time you can use the Q&A platform to ask questions. So feel free to ask a question at any time. I will be fielding those to share with Sharon. So you don't have to wait until the end. Throw out any questions that you have, and I'll keep an eye on those. As there's time with Sharon's talk, we can have some questions, but we will definitely leave time at the end as well. So don't worry if I don't get to your question, I definitely will. And we're also going to have some fun little polling questions peppered throughout the talk. So please do put your answers in for that. There's no penalties, I promise. And also, I did want to let you all know that these lectures are being recorded. So if you've missed any of our lectures in the past, we started in September. So we have two that are actually available on our YouTube channel, which is Doc Heart Health. And we will write that in the Q&A so you guys have that and you can look these up. And that includes tonight's talk as well. So we definitely will always record our monthly talks so you can reference them later, share with friends. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you our speaker. Sharon is so perfect for this talk tonight. I'm so thrilled. I'm very excited to learn. She's a registered dietitian and fitness trainer. She has been the director of the Bariatric surgery program at Lenox Hill. She's been running that program for about the past 14 years, which is amazing. And I'm sure it's breaking a lot of people's hearts that she's actually transitioning to a new position with the CAT Institute and Women's Health. So that is very exciting. She's going to be making that transition next week. So maybe you'll give us a little teaser about that, Sharon. And she, as I said, is going to be talking with us tonight about optimizing the diet, how to handle holiday eating. So thank you so much, Sharon, for joining us. Please, without further ado.
Thank you, Rachel, for that gracious introduction. And thank you all for tuning in tonight. I know it's about dinner time. It's probably not the best time to be speaking about food, but hopefully you'll be able to take some of the tips that we're presenting tonight and use them towards dinner, or hopefully, as Rachel said, for the holidays. So this is a timely webinar that we're sharing. So we're going to be speaking about the anti-diet approach to living your best. And I was speaking to my oh, I don't know if my slides are working. Would this be me or, okay, there we go. So I was speaking to my boss today. I was telling him, doing these webinars, it's kind of hard. You don't have an audience. I don't know if anyone's looking at me. I don't know if anyone's texting on the side. I don't have the reactions and facial expressions. So I said, I'm like, I need to engage them somehow. And he said, you got to start off with a riddle. So I'm giving credit to Dr. Mitchell Roslin for this riddle. And we're going to put a poll up because, again, we wanted to make this, again, engaging, interactive. And the riddle is, we have 3 frogs sitting on a log. 2 decide to jump off. So if you guys can help me with this poll, how many frogs are left on the log? So we're going to let a few seconds go by. And then Rachel, I don't know if you want to tell me what the percentages of the answers are. Again, I'll repeat that question. There's 3 frogs on the log. 2 decide to jump off. How many frogs are left?
I love this. It's like one of those logic questions. This is great. All right. So we should be able to see once we get some good responses here. Okay. We'll give it a couple more seconds.
Again, I don't want to make this so much of a lecture. I'm just, speaking the whole time, guys. So I want to have some feedback.
All right. Do you see the responses there?
So when I first heard this, my response also was 1. Again, you subtract 3 minus 2, there's 1 left over. So 58% of you guys said that there's 1. And the correct answer is actually, we don't know. And the reason for that, and this is a lot of what I deal with, as Rachel introduced, I work in the weight loss surgery world. Prior to working in the bariatric weight loss surgery department, I was also a fitness trainer working in the gym. So I have a lot of experience with people coming to me about weight loss. And when they come to me, they have in their mind decided to lose weight, but it's the execution that's the hardest part. So again, getting back to that riddle, we don't know how many frogs were left on the log just because 2 decided to jump. Maybe the 3rd decided to jump as well. Maybe the one that decided to jump never did. So it's really important to understand, why we make the decisions that we do and how to actually follow through with that. And that's part of what my job is as a dietitian. I am here to learn a little bit more about what is my patient's why, what are my clients' whys, why are you here, why did you decide to meet with me, and how can I actually get you to that goal. So most of the time I do have people who've come to me and they say, I want to lose weight. And I say, well, if you want to lose weight, I'm probably not the right person to come to because I'm not about you losing weight. I'm about you keeping it off. And it's as most of you know, losing weight is probably the easiest part. The hardest part is maintaining that and sustaining that for the long term. So I want to learn about who they are. I want to know what your story is. Why did you come to me? How much have you tried? How much weight have you tried to lose in the past? What was successful for you? What worked? What didn't work? How do we create loyal eaters? Because a lot of the times we lose so much weight and we focus again on the scale, but it's not the healthiest approach. I have people who have fasted all day, I have people who are on the HCG diet who only get 500 calories a day, which is very low. I have people who have, are working out in the gym and thinking that they can, out exercise a healthy, a poor diet. So there's so many factors that come into play that affect the way we eat. And Rachel, as you mentioned, culturally, our food preferences, religion, even movies that we've seen. I remember when all these Netflix documentaries are coming out about veganism. I had all my friends calling me, asking me, what I thought about that. So I think it's really important to understand what my clients and patients have tried and to kind of meet them halfway. And it's not so much just about what they're eating. I really need to know their story. How do they manage their stress? Do they smoke? What are their exercise habits like? And from there, we can formulate a great plan. And then I also want to know, what's their food IQ? And again, I don't have this as a polling question, guys, but these are things to maybe think about. How many of you are eating at least 1 fruit a day and 3 vegetables a day? How many of you are including whole grains? And that doesn't mean whole wheat bread, because a lot of times whole wheat bread can still have 80% of white refined flour and then only 20% of that whole grain that they're marketing on the front label. So we're talking about rice, farro, oats, millet. How many of you have included seeds and nuts, fish? How many of you chew your food 30 times before swallowing? I mean, I can't tell you how many of my patients who complain about acid reflux, feeling this feeling of food being stuck in their throat, and they need to use water, and they have to drink with their meals to wash things down. That all comes from not masticating your food well enough. So chewing is really important, and it also starts the first stage of digestion with amylase. That's the saliva in your mouth. So you got to do your body good by getting all of the organs working, your teeth, the saliva, the gastric juices in the stomach, the digestive enzymes. All of these play such an important role. And when you're feeling this acid reflux, or you're feeling food stuck in your throat, there's probably a reason for that. So chew, chew, chew. How many of you actually go out of your way to avoid packaged foods that have limited ingredients? A lot of us are eating foods and not even able to pronounce the ingredients that are in there. So that can't be doing too much good for us. Are you looking at the sugar content on the labels? Are you eating when you're stressed, or do you actually, think about what you're doing and how that's going to affect the rest of your day? Do you make it a point throughout the day to make sure that you're eating, and are you eating mindfully? Eating breakfast, I hear this all the time. I don't have time to eat breakfast, so they let 7, 6, 5, 4 hours go by. But we're going to be talking about when the best time to eat breakfast is. Do you drink a minimum of 6 cups of water a day? Do you limit sweetened beverages such as juice, soda, and alcohol, all which contain calories? And obviously, again, I can't talk about being healthy and without including the exercise component. So these are just a few things to think about, and I'm going to get back to it at the end of our talk. And what I love about registered dietitians we are the credible source for healthy eating, but I just don't love the diet word. I really like to call ourselves health coaches. Sometimes people use the word nutritionist, but nutritionists actually don't really have the same schooling as registered dietitians do. But let's break this down, because the most common question that I get asked is, what's the healthiest diet, or what's the best diet to lose weight? And when I hear this word diet, and I'm sure many of you guys who have done it before, diet, I found this little blurb, and I think it puts this whole thing into context very well. A diet is defined as managing your food intake and exercise over a period of time to lose weight, versus a healthy lifestyle, which is defined as incorporating positive choices into everyday routines to increase the quality of life by looking and feeling better. So let's break that down for a second. We have the word managing. That just sounds very cumbersome. It sounds very derogatory. It sounds like it takes a lot of work. The emphasis is on your food intake and your exercise patterns. And then it's defined by a period of time, and the goal is weight loss. Okay, so that goes back to why people who come to me asking to lose weight, the diet part is probably not going to work because it's just short term. Versus a healthy lifestyle, which is exactly what I'm trying to get everybody on this webinar to try and practice. You're incorporating positive choices. So incorporating actually, it involves you. You need to execute. You are a part of this process, as opposed to this quick fix for positive choices. So I think this is more optimistic into your everyday routine. So that's longer term, to increase the quality of life. So now we're talking about all aspects of our life by looking and feeling better. So this seems so much more of like an enhanced version of living your best self. And I pride myself for working for such an amazing organization. Northwell, as you guys know, formerly was known as North Shore Long Island Jewish Hospital. And I want to say it was 3 years ago that we branded it into Northwell. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to look up our history. But Northwell, took a totally different context. We're including all aspects of wellness. North is a direction that's up, again, in that positive movement. Wellness is encompassing all aspects of what I have here. I call these the 6 pillars to living well. So you have spiritual wellness or health, you have social wellness or health, you have psychological and emotional wellness, you have intellectual, physical, and occupational. So going back to when I'm sitting face to face with one of my patients who comes to me with some health goal, I can't talk about just the food and ignore the other aspects of their life. So we really need to talk about their work-life balance. We really need to include, do they have an optimistic attitude, or are they one of those like nervous Nellies and negative Nancy's that we all know how? We all have one of those friends or coworkers. So we want to have that optimistic attitude. I want people who are eager, who are excited, who want to be educated. So that goes back, and my job is to empower you. So those are the 4 E's that we're talking about. Socially, do you have a healthy relationship with the people around you? Are you mentally stable, or are you depressed? Because we really need to talk about what are those triggers that may affect your eating habits. Intellectually, are you seeking knowledge? I always say knowledge is power. So the more information we know, the more equipped our toolbox is. And physically, when I speak to people, in order for you to maintain your weight loss, you got to exercise. 80% of losing weight is what you eat. Okay, 20% will be more movement, but sustaining that weight loss is where the exercise really comes in, because as you lose weight, you also break down muscle, and muscle is what keeps that metabolism going. That's what keeps that fire up. So a lot of you guys have heard some of your friends who may eat a little bit more and not gain a pound, and then there's others who just look at their food and the pounds are piling on. So I think it's really important to understand that lean muscle mass can do you guys benefits when it comes to keeping that weight off. So I guess my next polling question is, were you able to keep weight off for several weeks after trying some sort of diet? So I think, a lot of my patients say that they're able to lose weight with a diet, but my question is, after 4 weeks, how many of you were actually able to sustain that? So if we can get the results to this poll, I can move on with the rest of our.
Yeah. I think that's a great question, Sharon, because I do think there's a lot of, it's hard. And I think people want to know what is going to be best, right? And as you're saying, that is such a loaded question, and everyone's different. And I think there's this idea that so much with this keto, with this paleo, I'm so excited to hear you talk about this, because I think there's this idea of, there's a magic bullet, one of these things is going to be perfect for me. On the flip side, though, I know that with Dr. Janos and we do have the mindset of, listen, if something is going to kickstart a healthy lifestyle for someone, that's going to motivate them, I'd love to hear your thoughts too about what you think about that. So for example, someone does, let's say, a low carb type of diet, which, we obviously don't really promote, but let's say they do that for 3 months, lose a good amount of weight, but then we need to figure out what is going to be a good way for them to transition into something that's going to be sustainable, going to be healthy for them, and doable over the lifetime. That's kind of, where we try to let our patients have a little bit of, input and control too. But I'd love to hear, your professional opinion about that.
Yeah, well, I loved how you just brought the topic of low carb. And I don't know if you guys can see the results of the poll, if the viewers can see it, but it looks like 69% of you said yes, you were able to keep the weight off for 4 weeks, and 31% of you said no. I'm actually surprised. I thought most of you would not be able to sustain that weight loss, but I'm glad that you proved me wrong. But going back to what you said, Rachel, about a low carb diet. So again, I've been practicing as a registered dietitian for almost 15 years now. And prior to that, again, working in the gym setting as a personal trainer, I was doing nutrition counseling for another 5 to 6 years on top of that. So 20 years experience of talking about food and exercise. I don't think many people know what low carb means, because so low carb diets definitely work, and we'll go over again how that gets broken down into each one of these diets. But what's a low carb diet? Because the My Plate based on a 2,000 calorie diet does recommend about 360 grams of carbohydrates, but not everybody needs that many carbs. Again, if you are of shorter stature and more of a petite size, you probably need less energy than, a man who's built as an athlete at 6 foot tall and is running every single day. So it's so important to really understand what your calorie needs are. And we're going to get into that also at some point in my talk. But there's so many different diet trends out there. And again, diets are something we start. It's something that we restrict ourselves. We deprive ourselves. We crave the foods that we know we're not supposed to be eating. We finally give in. We feel guilty. And then this vicious cycle starts to happen again. And you guys are all familiar with, the Atkins and the Weight Watchers, and the most trendiest ones that have evolved during recent times are the keto, the paleo, vegetarian, vegan, Mediterranean. So my next polling question before I go into the different diets that we're going to be just quickly, touching upon, what do you guys think is the healthiest diet? So if we can put that poll question up. And your choices are Mediterranean, paleo, ketogenic, vegan, or intermittent fasting. So again, I know we have a bunch of viewers here tonight, and I'm curious to know what you guys think is the healthiest. And the New York Times did give an answer to this. So, all right. It looks like we've got some high food IQ viewers tonight. Yes, so the Mediterranean diet is in its lead at 77%. I love how the ketogenic diet got a 0. And we'll go over this because I think that there's been a lot of hype around intermittent fasting recently. And again, as I mentioned, there's been a bunch of documentaries out there also promoting the vegan diet. But let's touch upon a few of what is the ketogenic diet. So Rachel, as you spoke about, low carb, I think ketogenic is the new trendy term for the Atkins diet that most maybe of our mothers have followed in the early 90s. And the ketogenic diet is a high fat, there's very low protein, very low carbohydrate. And the whole point of the ketogenic diet is that our bodies use carbohydrates as the first nutrient to give our body energy. So when you're not getting a lot of carbs in your diet and your energy levels, your energy stores are very low from sugar, your body's going to be using fat as fuel. Okay. The ketogenic diet is known to be about 30 grams of carbohydrates in your whole day. And for those of you who don't know what 30 grams of carbohydrates are, that's about the amount of carbohydrates that you're going to get in one apple. So that's not a lot, factoring in how many times we eat in the day. It's really about one bowl of cereal. And again, a bowl on a serving size is about half a cup. So make sure that you're measuring half a cup. And that's basically, I don't know if you're, during my day when I was in summer camp, we used to get those little, boxes of cereal, which they don't make anymore because our serving sizes have increased so much. It's really important to know, again, what does this look like? So it's probably not the healthiest diet. Yes, a lot of people lose a lot of weight, but in the beginning, it's probably more water weight that they're losing rather than body fat. Because again, when you store carbohydrates in the body, it gets stored as glycogen, and glycogen holds on to a lot of water. So I'm sure you guys have all experienced this. When you go on a very, very low carb diet, or you take out bread and you take out all the sweets, your weight goes down drastically in the first week, but then it starts to slow down after that. So keep in mind when you're on a ketogenic diet, your energy levels are going to be very low. You probably can't concentrate. And they're also known as the keto flu. So you're just feeling not the best. And people can also be very constipated on this type of diet because when you take out carbs, you take out fiber. The paleo diet.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Sharon. That was just such a perfect thing for you to say, because I think that we get just a lot of people are very kind of hung up on the idea of the scale, to be honest with you, what the weight is. And I love that you touched on, the idea that yes, you may lose a lot of weight, but a lot of it might be water weight, because carbs encourage our body, with carbs go water a lot of the time. So, when you're restricting those so much, and I think, and I'm sure you will get into this more, but the idea of not all foods being created equal, that not all fats are created equal, right? Not all carbs are created equal, so getting that quality, more bang for your buck. So as you mentioned earlier about the processed foods, you're not getting these empty sort of calories, and I think that that's a lot of things that patients aren't necessarily understanding, where, the carbs from an apple, you're getting so many benefits from that apple, and if you're limiting your carbs so much, you're limiting so many of those good food options.
Yes, and we're going to touch upon the difference between the good carbs and the not so good carbs. And also another thing that you mentioned, Rachel, again, the scale is not your friend. Many people don't realize that if you weigh yourself at night after a meal, after drinking water, you can be up to 5 pounds heavier than you would be if you weigh yourself first thing in the morning after you urinate and you're at your driest weight. So for those of you who are weight conscious and always getting on the scale, it's not best to do it after a workout either. A lot of people think, well, I sweated all this water and my weight is going to go down, but your vessels are also dilated, because all these endorphins and all of these reactions from your weight training exercise can be pumping blood. So the best time to weigh yourself, and you should be doing this consistently, is first thing in the morning. Okay. And I don't even recommend getting on the scale every day. But for those of you, I also hear my patients say, well, that's the one thing that really keeps me in check. And so I know when to scale back. So I would say, weighing once a week is enough. Every day is going to drive you crazy, because if I got in $1 for every email that I got from my patients telling me that they're not losing weight and they're weighing themselves every day and the weight went up, 5 pounds, keep in mind, guys, when you have a lot of sugar or a lot of salt in your diet, that's going to include, again, you're going to see a lot of that represented on the scale from the water. So the next diet we have is the paleo diet, also known as the caveman diet. And this includes a diet that is void of any processed foods. It's what our hunters and gatherer ancestors ate. Most of these are going to be foods that come from the earth. They're going to be fruits, they're going to be vegetables, they're going to be nuts and seeds. And they really push more for protein sources, like anything that roams the earth. Grass-fed animals, wild game, fish. Again, I'm always promoting omega-3, fatty fish, oils from fruits and nuts. And what's really limited on the paleo diet are grains. Again, anything processed, anything that comes in a box, anything sugar-free. So any of the sugar alcohols like the xylitol and the erythritol and the Splenda, all of those, again, are man-made. They're highly processed or not on a paleo diet. Dairy is processed, and that causes a lot of inflammation. So inflammation can also cause weight gain. It's your body's response to stress. So a lot of our hunter and gatherer ancestors were not eating the foods that you see on the right side of the slide, but what you see on the left side is going to be highly promoted. Then we have intermittent fasting. So I think, I have gotten a lot of media requested comments on this. And, I think naturally our bodies are supposed to have a break from eating, and that's when we are sleeping. Okay. We don't need to add any trendy buzzwords to these time restricted eatings. And there's a few different types of intermittent fasting methods that I just wanted to touch upon. There's the 5 to 2, where you're eating for 5 days in the week, but then you're fasting for 2 days of the week. Now that 2 days doesn't mean you're starving yourself and not putting any calories into your body, but it's a very low calorie intake of 500 to 600, which is about like 1/4 of what we typically would get if we're on a 2,000 calorie diet a day. Then there's the 24-hour fast where you're not eating for one full day, and you're doing that about 1 to 3 days in the week. And then there's a time restricted where, again, you're giving your body a good, maybe 12 to 16 hours of no food. Your body's not working at digesting. It's just, when we're constantly eating food, our body's at work. It's trying to break down what we eat. So on this time restricted, you can work with a health professional to find out what the best time restrictions would be for you. And these, again, I say that if, back in the day when we're all eating as a family and we're in 100 different things going on, and we were actually working normal hours of 9 to 5, we would eat at a dinner table, eating supper at 6:30. Again, I live in New York City. People are eating dinner by me, around 9:30, 10. It's a little scary, and then going straight to bed. So I think that we really need to focus on not so much of the diet of intermittent fasting, but really try to give your body some time to rest where it's not ingesting any food and it's not digesting any food. So, maybe that can be from 8 p.m. of no eating, kitchen is closed, to, have your breakfast again by 8 a.m. So that gives you that 12-hour block. And you don't need to say that you're on this intermittent fasting diet. It's just naturally what we're supposed to be doing. The problem with intermittent fasting, and I see this with a lot of my patients, is sometimes they go all day without eating and they have one large meal and they think this is the healthiest thing for them. But what are they eating in that one meal? They can still be ingesting almost 2,000 calories a day, and that can be highly processed food. And I see this with a lot of people who are chronic dieters or yo-yo dieters, or people who've restricted themselves from eating the foods that they love and deprived themselves of these healthy items. And then because they go so long without eating, they just need to reward themselves for going so long without eating, and then kind of cave in and make poor decisions. So I think it's really important to understand what it is that's triggering you, and, having more of a healthier pattern to eating. And, I'm sorry I didn't talk about this before, but the intermittent fasting, why it's gotten so much buzz is that it does increase human growth hormone, which helps your body break down fat, and it decreases insulin. And insulin is a fat storing hormone, and insulin, rises every time we have carbs. So if you're having a lot of carbs, intermittently throughout the day, your insulin levels are always going to be rising. So if you give your body a little bit of that time to not eat, your insulin levels will consistently be low, where you'll be using fat as fuel, similar to what goes on in the ketogenic diet. But just to summarize again, I think that you need to understand, normally, if we can just give ourselves a good 10 to 12 hours of no eating, you're following a perfect, again, these are the benefits that would reap from following this type of eating.
Perfect. And Sharon, there were just a couple questions actually about the timing of eating breakfast. So I just thought it was a good time to interject those. Do you think that it's more important for people to just kind of have this general idea of the benefit of the fasting time versus a hard and fast rule kind of, when should I have breakfast?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to that, again, that collaboration that I need to have with someone. If you're waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I don't need you rolling out of bed and eating your breakfast, 10 minutes after. The rule that I give, my philosophy is that you should probably fuel your body within 2 hours of waking up. So, again, if you wake up at 8 a.m., lucky you, looks like you got a lot of sleep in, you should be having breakfast by 10 a.m. If you are a night shift worker, I can't tell you how many nurses I work with, and they say that their diets are all over the place, and they're, snacking all throughout the day, whatever's in the break room, which is usually graham crackers and pretzels and, some food gifts that they've gotten from patients. And I think it's just really important that we start our morning within 2 hours of waking up, whatever that means for you.
Perfect. Thank you. Absolutely. So
Great question. Great question.
Thank you, audience. Keep asking your questions.
Yeah, please please feel free, Rachel, to, to just chime in. I don't want to make this so much again of me lecturing. I'd love to hear feedback and questions from our viewers. And so the next diet is the vegan diet. Again, this is different than a vegetarian. So the difference between the two, that anyone who's following a vegan diet, it's mostly plant-based. There are no animal products of any kind, and that includes honey. I don't think anyone realizes that bees are considered the animals. So, and veganism is more of people who are, trying to protect the environment. They're trying to be ethical about animal treatment. So a lot of them don't even wear leather or fur. So it's more of a lifestyle than it is a trendy diet. And vegetarianism at least has a little bit more flexibility. You are avoiding meat and fish. Some people do include eggs and dairy, and we'll call those lacto-ovo-vegetarians, or if they include fish, we'll call them pescatarians. And there are benefits to this diet. Again, you're avoiding animal, and for some people, there is some research that shows too much of anything can lead to heart disease. But the problem with this is if you're trying to lose weight and you're disgluting a lot of these protein sources, which actually help with weight loss because they take longer to be digested and they keep us full for longer, people start replacing the protein with a lot of carbohydrates. So, and carbs, again, as we mentioned, some of them can be highly processed and can lead to weight gain. So a bean burrito that's made of like whole wheat flour and rice and beans and a few, peppers and onions can be up to like 700 calories versus a piece of fish with some butternut squash and a little bit of green vegetables. So I think it depends on how careful you are in making that plate colorful. So and another thing is, protein sources that come from animals, we get a lot of B12, we get zinc. So anyone following a vegan or vegetarian diet should probably get their blood work checked and just make sure that they're not anemic and getting the proper vitamins, at least in supplemental form. And then lastly, we have the Mediterranean diet. This includes, again, a moderation of fat, fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains. We're limiting meat, cheese, and sweets. And this has been touted to be one of the best diets to help lower heart disease risk, improve our mood, and boost our energy. And another thing about the Mediterranean diet, if any one of you have ever traveled to Italy, we know they eat much smaller portions. We know that they walk a lot. They enjoy the occasional glass of wine at dinner. So again, I don't think that they're depriving themselves. They're just eating such a colorful, nutrient-dense diet daily. And the focus is really not excluding foods, it's including. And that's one message. I mean, if there's anything that I want you guys to walk out of this webinar learning, it's, this is not about what you can't eat. It's more about what you can eat. So what is the best diet? Again, I think it's one that works best for you. It's one that makes you feel good because food is supposed to nourish us. It's a balance of whole foods. It needs to be something that's sustainable for the long term. And I think you really need to respect your body. You really need to listen to your body. Our body is just a miraculous machine. And it talks to us, but we ignore it. Okay. So, that gut feeling that we get, that's the body's communication. It's the signals that tell us, something's wrong. So if you're not going to the bathroom every day, that's a sign that you're probably not getting enough fiber in your diet. If you're feeling, headaches and fatigue all the time, you may not be getting enough water. Water it helps push fluids, all the nutrients through the body. Blood is composed of water. And if blood is not reaching the brain, you're going to feel lightheaded and dizzy. So I think it's, again, we spoke about the acid reflux before. If you're feeling acid reflux, you're probably eating way too late at night and lying down and not letting the food, go down its natural pathway. You may be eating foods that may be too spicy for you. You may not be chewing your food well enough. If you're feeling bloated all the time, you might be eating a food that your body is just not processing properly. And it doesn't need to be an allergy to a food, but a lot of us may be intolerant to a food. So you hear a lot of the gluten intolerance, and bread might not be the best choice for people who are always feeling this, that pregnant belly that you get after eating your lunch. So, and we have, again, one thing that we're doing, and I'd love, if I don't know if you're going to give anyone my email at the end of this discussion, but one thing, research study that we're doing in my office now, because I love to understand the human body and what's going on inside of us and how food affects us, because we are all so different. If there's anything that I've learned in my vocation, it's there is no one diet that works for anybody. And we are all individuals, and some things work for us and some things don't. So we are doing a study right now, part of my bariatric practice, and we're basically putting continuous glucose monitors on any study participant, and we want to learn what is going on with your blood sugars when you eat certain foods. Some of us might spike up and crash back down after eating something very sweet, and some of us might actually have this balanced pattern. And what I learned from putting this continuous glucose monitor on myself is that when I had coleslaw from the deli, or when I even had a fruit salad that was packaged, because I always had this hunch that when we get packaged fruit salads, they kind of marinate the fruit in some juice to preserve it that longer. I noticed that my glucose levels skyrocketed up. And what happens, the problem with this is, the reason why we don't want to have all these highs and lows are insulin responds to these rises in our glucose levels. And if the glucose level is elevated, then your insulin levels are gonna also be elevated. And insulin, again, as we said, if it's always high, it's gonna be very difficult for you to lose weight. So if anyone is interested in our study, please reach out to me. We are looking for more participants. We'd love to help you interpret, what is going on in your body. I actually had one person who came to us and she already lost 10 pounds. And this was just from me interpreting what she's eating, interpreting her glucose curves, and then also looking at her food log. So if you want to know what this is all about, you basically download this app, you take photos of what you're eating, you wear a continuous glucose monitor. And the one caveat is that in order to calibrate the monitor, you'll need to also prick your finger, as most of you know that diabetics do. But again, I'll give you more details again, and if anyone is interested, please feel free to reach out to me.
That's great. Thank you so much, Sharon. I wanted to just interject a quick question, because you had mentioned staying hydrated, and drinking enough water. We did have a question about staying hydrated throughout the day and what your thoughts were as far as eating while drinking. What is the best timing? I think also I'd love for you to just kind of touch on, the idea that a lot of our hydration comes from water too. And, maybe not having these hard and fast rules of I must have 8 glasses, a day. And I'd love for you to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, so I don't really know where the origins of the 8 cups a day comes from, but I could tell you that, we do know that the body is made about 70 to 80% of water, okay? And water plays such an important function in all these reactions in our body. And, it doesn't need to necessarily be water. It could be even, any other fluid, coffee. Not that I would want you to be drinking 6 cups of coffee a day. I think that we can count it towards one of the 6 to 8 that we're recommending. But, you got to make it a habit. I'm sitting here, I've got a bottle of water, next to me. I think if we carry water bottles, it'll remind us. There's a bunch of apps that remind us to be drinking. And the hydration is very important. You don't need to necessarily drink with your meals. Again, I specialize in bariatric surgery, and when my patients go for surgery, their stomach is altered. It's much, much smaller. There's this very small reservoir of where they can hold food, and we don't want them washing their meals down with water. And I know that Weight Watchers actually prides themselves in, when you're hungry, drink a lot of water. When you eat, drink a lot of water. So then you're full, but you're full of water, and water has no nutritional macronutrients in there to keep us full. So yes, you're full for the short term. You feel full of something, but 3 minutes later, when you go and, void, you're still hungry again. And we don't want to wash food down. We don't want to wash food out of our stomach. That's what the gastric juices are. Those are what your digestive enzymes are supposed to be doing. We want food to sit in our stomach so we're not so hungry to want to eat more. So I do suggest drinking throughout the day. If you don't like the flavor of water, drink an herbal tea, put some mint in your water. I love going to restaurants. I ask for orange slices and I start muddling, the juice from the orange to just infuse my water with flavor. So yeah, for those of you who say you hate the taste of water, it's not supposed to have a taste. It's the most natural thing on earth that we need. It is essential.
Absolutely. Thank you. Perfect.
And so again, going back to what is the best diet, just, we got to shift these associations that we have. A lot of times, I have people who come to me and say, like, can you make a meal plan for me? And I start, creating all these combinations of superfoods, because I feel like I'm a scientist when it comes to putting meals together. I just take all the macros, right? So we need to have a carb, and we need to have a fat, and we need to have a protein, and these are the ones that you can choose from. So let's put this concoction together for you. But I have a lot of people who look at me and are like, wait, that's so weird. Put peanut butter in my oatmeal for breakfast. And yeah, I mean, why not? So just be creative and find the flavors, because we eat based on texture, okay, and color. We eat with all of our senses. I love to have a party in my mouth. I like to have something that's crunchy. I like to have something that's sweet. I like to have something that's spicy. So, and that comes, all of these foods have a function. So nothing is weird to me when it comes to food. I say it all goes to the same place, anyway. And when we're trying to disassociate, I mean, I have a lot of patients who say, the hardest time for me is at night when I'm sitting at home, it's 10 o'clock, I put all the kids to sleep. I'm just, trying to shut down from the stress of the day. And it's just like the cookie pantry is calling me, and I just sit and I'm watching TV and I'm just eating out of like a bag of cookies. So I think a lot of times locations become an association. So like the TV, it's time to eat. I have some patients who eat in their bed. I kind of say the bedroom is a place to sleep. So you got to have rules and restrictions of, time and location. I say kitchens close after 8 p.m. The food, you don't eat in a bathroom, right? So you shouldn't eat in the bedroom. There's a time and a place for everything. Food should be eaten in the kitchen. So you got to make these limitations for yourself. And avoid having food around in open containers, because I don't know about you. Yes, I'm a dietitian, but if you're going to put a clear container of cookies on the kitchen counter, it's going to be calling my name every single time I walk in through the kitchen. So this is not a matter of willpower. We got to make it easy for ourselves, because, a lot of times I hear people who tell me, well, maybe your patients just don't have enough discipline, or they don't have enough willpower. But, it's not about the willpower. It's really the environment that you surround yourself in.
Absolutely. I think that's such a great point, and like you said, there's these little triggers, that we all have. I think it's a very similar sort of mindset to, patients that are smokers, where it's like you get up in the morning and you have your coffee and you have your cigarette, things become habitual. So I think it's so important to have the idea of mindful eating, breaking those bad habits, whether it's taking your, bag down of your mixed nuts and, actually removing that portion size, whether than just sitting down with it and eating, because as you said, we're all human. Who's going to stop at a fourth of a cup or whatever, unless it's a mindful choice. And this is slightly off topic, but I didn't want to miss this question because I thought it was very important. Someone asked about GERD and saying, a lot of times with eating with acid reflux, it can be very bland. And I loved when you were talking about party in the mouth and things like that. What type of advice do you have for somebody that's eating with some restrictions, especially with the acid reflux, to still, have fun foods and fun.
Oh my God. I mean, I don't think herbs and spices get enough credit, But they can make your food taste so good. I mean, I have a 7-page handout that I give out to my patients of what the benefits of herbs and spices are and how they just jazz up your meal. I know that, oatmeal, for example, can be very bland. So I always say put cocoa powder in there or put cinnamon in there. If you're cooking a chicken dish, Mrs. Dash, I mean, there's a bunch of companies that have a mixture of different herbs and spices. So if you don't have space in your cabinet to have like one of everything, marjoram, mustard seeds, paprika, turmeric, all of these spices have such benefits. And, I come from a Persian descent. My mother is Iranian, and, she cooks with all of these different spices. Yes, some of them can cause acid reflux. A lot of them don't. And now these spices that they were using in her home country are now like superfoods here in the United States. She's like, I knew about all this before you did. And here they are now like trends. But yeah, there's a bunch of different spices. I would encourage you to, experiment with spicy foods. Sriracha, probably not the best. Tomato-based dishes, probably not the best. Pepper, probably not the best. But there's so many foods, you want to use when you have GERD and acid reflux, you want a more basic, you want to neutralize the acids. And there's lots of ways to do that. You can have, aloe vera juice. It can also neutralize. Cucumbers can help neutralize acid. So these are some of those little, naturopathic and homeopathic remedies for that. Do you want to go on with any other questions, Rachel? I know we have a few more minutes left, and I want to make sure that everyone's questions are answered. I mean, this is for you guys. If not, I don't mind going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for asking. There was a question, I thought this was so sweet because I really sympathize, basically asking, let's say you're craving something and you just try to avoid it. Let's say you have a healthy snack instead, but then ultimately you're going to end up having that piece of chocolate or having that donut, or how would you say people should really kind of manage cravings, things like that? What are your kind of tips for when you could give in things to try so that maybe you don't eat a bunch of things before and then still eat that donut? Does that make sense?
So I mean, that's a great question, and it's one I get asked all the time, like, how do you manage cravings? So number one, you need to figure out what caused that craving. 90% of the time, you probably saw something on television, you probably saw something on the street, you were with a friend and you're craving something, or it has become a habit that every time after lunch, you go for something sweet, or every time after dinner, you go for something sweet. So those were the associations we were talking about in the prior slide. But again, we also have hormones, and depending on where our hormones are at a certain time of the month, it's natural to have these cravings. And as I said, you need to respect your body. And when it says it really wants something, I'm all about giving in, but you got to do smart choices. So one of the things that I talk a lot about to my patients is it's the 10 commandments of eating. And one of the commandments is that your sugar content should be less than 10 grams per serving, and fiber should be greater than 3. So those are the two things that you want to look for in a label. And some of the foods that fall into those categories for those cravings are, dark chocolate. Am I allowed to give brand names on this talk? I'm not sure.
Sure, yeah, no, I think that's fine. We can always have John bleep it out post-production.
Yeah, so there are these chocolate covered almonds. They're called skinny dipped. They're not coated in chocolate. They're basically just dusted with chocolate. So it definitely gives you that, it gives into that sweet tooth. They're about 6 grams of sugar. They're very high in fiber. You're getting your healthy fats from the almonds. So I think that's a great food, a great, food that if you're looking to crave. If you're an ice cream eater and you're always craving ice cream, again, if you're looking for that creamy texture, there's a bunch of Greek yogurts out there that have less than 10 grams of sugar in it. And if you're like me, I live for chocolate peanut butter. That's my favorite flavor on earth if you left me on a deserted island. And there's a peanut butter powder. It's called PB2, and there's a few other brands. Again, it's a defatted chocolate peanut butter powder. And if you put that in Greek yogurt, again, you're getting that creamy, chocolatey peanut butter flavor for less than 10 grams of sugar and high protein. And as I mentioned in our from the prior slides, you want protein because it keeps you full. You want fiber because it keeps you full. It takes long for these foods, these macronutrients to be digested. So finding any dessert item that falls in that category is going to be great. There's a bunch of ice cream flavors that have come out now that are trying to be more keto friendly. So again, my best advice is just go to the supermarket, look for something that is less than 10 grams of sugar, greater than 3 grams of fiber, and keep that as your, craving emergency stash. And again, if it's just one of those days and you're craving something that falls off that, that rule that I just gave you, give into it, guys, because the more you neglect and deprive yourself from something, the more you're going to be thinking about it. And have it. It doesn't mean you want to bring it in the house and have it for the next, 5 days. I'm all about eating ice cream when your body wants it, but buying, a whole gallon and keeping it in the freezer, it's going to be calling your name every night. So, again, that goes back to those rules. You want ice cream, go out and get it. Just don't bring it home.
I think that's such great advice. Agreed. Because eventually what you don't want happening is you're depriving yourself so much that you just go then and binge, and like you said, you eat the whole, gallon of ice cream, you have 12 donuts, I think allowing yourself those treats as you go on, where the majority of your diet is very well balanced and healthy, then you don't have to feel guilty about it. And I loved how you talked about the PB2. I love that stuff. I think that's so great. And just kind of speaking of, additives to kind of sneak in a little health here and there, we did have someone ask about flax seeds and chia seeds. How do you feel about adding that to foods?
So that's my secret weapon for anyone who's suffering with constipation. Yes, doctors will tell you to go and take laxatives and stool softeners, but chia seeds and flax seeds are superfoods. They are high in fiber. They're high in the omega-3 essential fatty acids. So if you ever heard the word essential, it means your body needs it. We have essential fats. We have essential amino acids, which are basically the building blocks of protein, but you'll never hear the word essential carbohydrates. So keep that in mind, guys. The next time you're trying to eat a food, we need essential fats. We need protein. We don't need processed carbohydrates. But the chia seeds, the flax seeds, throw them on anything and everything. Throw them in a protein shake. I actually have a shake recipe that I'll share on my last slide. And throw them in your oatmeal, throw them in your soups, throw them in your beverages. They're so versatile. You can throw them in your yogurt. I'm all about 3 tablespoons of one or the other in a meal. And, again, just to close, because I wanted to throw a few little tips that you guys can take home, because I didn't want to make this so much of a lecture. There's action items. Okay. So I want you to make this Thanksgiving or this year a little bit different than the last, although 2020 has been a huge change for all of us. But number one, try to avoid going to any party hungry. Start the day off with breakfast, because when you don't eat all day to kind of like indulge at that Thanksgiving meal, you're probably going to eat a lot more calories than you need. If you're going to a party where they're probably not going to be serving the healthiest, and it's that typical Thanksgiving of the gravy and the mashed potatoes and the bread stuffing, bring a veggie platter. When you are choosing the food, scan the table, ensure know what you're going to be putting on your plate, fill up on the vegetables. My little secret tip that I like to give to my patients is always eat your vegetables first. Eat your protein second, and then eat the starch last. So don't go running to the dessert table. You want to eat the dessert at the end of the meal. Limit your alcohol, and I hope the next day or earlier in that morning you're exercising. Honestly, the best advice is make sure you work out first thing in the morning Thursday, just to give you that endorphin rush, to make you feel in control. A lot of the times when we give into these cravings, it's a lack of control. Exercising, in my opinion, it just always keeps me very regimented. So I I hope that might be something for you to do. And it doesn't mean you need to go and do a high intensity or 7-mile jog. Just do something that makes you feel good.
Perfect. I completely agree. And, I loved kind of what you had said earlier about how you sort of can't out exercise a bad diet. I think that it's so important that you recognize how good nutrition and exercise build off each other, but that you sort of can't completely negate one thing for the other. Absolutely. And I won't interrupt too much because I want to let you, go through. I know we are kind of getting at the hour mark here. So any, continuing thoughts, I feel like I could talk about this all night. You're just so fantastic, Sharon. So, please feel free, do a quick kind of finish up. And of course, you guys, Sharon was so kind to share her email. We did put that on the chat function for you guys. It is szarabi@northwell.edu. And I'm happy to share that with anybody after as well, but please do feel free to take that down from the chat area, and I will put it in the Q&A function as well too, so you guys can see that. But I feel like it's just a topic that we could go on about all night, and I don't want to keep you guys too long. So please, Sharon, I'll let you kind of, finish up, and then if there's any additional questions, I will throw those in at the very end.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'll just, again, what I wanted to show you guys here, I know mac and cheese is a big thing for Thanksgiving, but you can do the same thing with cauliflower. Cauliflower has no flavor, but when you start adding that cheese and a little bit of that fat and salt, it'll really enhance the flavor. Instead of doing, a bread stuffing, you can do a quinoa stuffing. I'm all about roasting all different colors of vegetables. So again, make that plate very colorful. That's what our, that's what our palate, that's how we can satisfy that palate. And here, again, I just wanted to, before I conclude, again, because I can talk forever about food. I am a major foodie. This is probably 4 different talks that I jammed into one. But if you are looking for a way to start your day, this is a recipe that I have put together. It includes fiber from fruits and the nuts and the seeds. It includes healthy fats from the nuts and the seeds. It includes protein. So feel free to take some notes on this this smoothie recipe, which again, for those of you who may not be using the bathroom every day, this hopefully can get that GI tract moving. And without further ado, again, I just want to talk about adopting these core values, really asking yourself, what's that why? Find a coach, whether it's a dietitian or a trainer, someone who is experienced and credentialed to talk about food and movement and exercise. Produce these new habits and build on these rituals. It takes 37 days to break a habit and create a new one. So I hope that some of the information, I know it was overwhelming and a lot because I can speak forever, but I just want you to take one nugget of knowledge out of this talk, try to apply it for 37 days. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free to reach out to me.
Perfect. I love that. Thank you so much, Sharon. This was just so amazing. And I hope you guys did feel like you got some great little nuggets and tidbits to take away with you. It is such a broad subject, and I think that's the thing. There's so much information out there. A lot of it's good, but a lot of it's bad. And I think that's why it's so important to have good people in your corner on your team. So while it's very important to see your doctors, your providers, there's a different mindset that you can tell that a registered dietitian has. So I think having even a consult, just one time with someone that can really delve into your diet, delve into things with you, is going to give you a perspective that you just could never get, when you've just got maybe 15 minutes with your doctor. And so I think having that arsenal, just another tool in the arsenal, is so amazing, because there's amazing dietitians out there in the world. And honestly, telehealth visits are a lot more of an option now. And we're finding that with our providers. I know, Sharon, you're super busy with everything that you're doing in your life, but it is possible to find a provider that's going to be able to, ideally do a telehealth if traveling to the location is difficult. And speaking of that, our next speaker for December, she's got some big shoes to fill, because Sharon, you're amazing. Let me tell you, her name is Sarah Miller, and she's a nutritionist based in Long Island. And she is going to be speaking with us. It's also on a Tuesday evening, December 8th at 7 p.m. And she's going to be kind of continuing the same idea of mindful eating around the holidays. So I think ideally you're going to be able to take those tidbits and work them through, you know, your whole life. But the holidays are a very challenging time, you know, for most people. So we want to be able to, you know, give you as many tips and tools that we can. And please know that we are here for you to support you. Thank you again, Sharon, for sharing your email. That was so kind of you. Please, everyone, do keep in mind the trial that she's doing. I think that's fantastic and so fascinating. It'll give us great data. A lot of times it's tough to have great research as far as lifestyle. So I'm always thrilled to hear when people are pursuing that. So if that's something that you all think you'd be interested, please do reach out. We'd love to have you all join us again in December. But if you can't, please do remember that these talks are all going to be recorded and available on our YouTube channel. It is Doc Heart Health, and that has been put up in the chat function for you if you all want to see the link. But if you just go to YouTube and put Doc Heart Health, you'll be able to see all of these amazing talks. And please, everyone, do have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Please indulge a little, as Sharon said, you know, there's healthy indulging, but, you know, around the holidays, we don't want people to feel deprived. And I think, you know, getting out and moving, that's such great advice, you know. Thursday morning, you know, that's why they have all those turkey trots, right? That's that's an excellent thing, you know, to promote the exercise. So thank you everyone for joining. And Sharon, thank you so much. This was just
Thank you. And thank you to all of you guys for your questions and participating at this hour. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you all so much.
Happy Thanksgiving to all. Enjoy your day guilt-free. Start fresh again on Friday.
You've got carte blanche from our registered dietitian. No. Please do stay safe. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. And we appreciate so much. And hopefully we'll all see you on December 8th at 7 p.m. again. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.